Hey everybody, Rob Coldwell here with Living Well with Rent Well. I'm here with my man Craig Eppler. Craig, great to see you, brother.
Yeah. Thanks, Rob. Thanks for having me. I appreciate you having me on.
Craig's wicked smart. We could probably spend 3 hours, 4 hours, or 3 or 4 days learning about what he does for a living, which is he's the guy making trades in wealthy families' portfolios. Good way to put it.
It's a good way to put it. Quick
And
recap. I like it.
that is what he does for a living. But we're not going to talk as much about that because this man living in Old City, recently married, Argentina honeymoon, and all good stuff like fairy tale type. And he has grown a portfolio of 48 doors. And Craig and I met maybe a year ago, 6 months ago, and he was having some troubles with his current property manager at that time.
Yep.
And he's in an area where Rentwell does not yet manage. And so it was great to just have an open conversation where I gave you some feedback on what I know about the management space. And then shortly after that, you were already looking, then you made a move.
Yep.
And you're very happy with where you've gone. And for the sake of this episode, this isn't about one company's better than another company, this company's name Y, other company's name X. What we really want to learn is, like, how do you lead and manage your property managers? Like, when is it time to make a move? What's acceptable tolerances for certain things? And then we could get into how they're structured, what you like, what you don't like, all that, because you have hired a manager, which means you're not doing your own maintenance. You're not placing any of your own tenants.
That's right.
You're not doing anything for rent collection. So, Craig, why don't you take it from here? Like, what's a little bit about your story? How did you get your very first property?
Sure. So I'll take it back. I started at a large asset management company, kind of fresh out of school, moved to Philadelphia. Wanted to be that kind of big shot Wall Street finance guy, right? But then soon realized that was going to take a lot longer than I thought. So 2017, bought my first primary residence out in Malvern, Pennsylvania, which is just outside the city. Hated my commute from the city out to the suburbs, so I figured it'd be a good way to kind of build some equity. I could literally throw a rock to my office, so I could save some time there. So bought that house. And from there, I kind of did the classic house hack. I had two more roommates that I just rented out rooms for, so it made my mortgage very low, right? So my living expenses were low.
And you kept Malvern?
Kept
Or did you
Malvern.
sell? Okay.
I still own that one.
Still have Malvern?
Still have that one. Yeah.
Don't sell your real estate.
That's right. That's right. Don't sell it.
You
And that one's been
don't
a great
need
one.
to
Yeah.
sell it. You probably have all your money out and more, and it's still there.
It's beautiful. Yeah, it's perfect. It's a great area, great schools, all the good stuff out there. But I was able to actually find a credit union locally that was able to lend me 100% loan to value on that when I first bought it. So I was able to pull out pretty much all the money and start buying real estate. So my first, I'll consider my real investment was in 2019. I bought a single family in Pottstown, and every horror story you can think of with real estate that they tell you kind of went wrong with that one, or at least I thought so at the time, right? The guy that was in there stopped paying rent, kind of month one. Then the turn happened, and I'm still living off of I'm W-2, so I didn't have a lot to kind of make this work. I was already stretched thin after the purchase. Anyway, got that one stabilized and had a bad taste in my mouth for a little bit. So I didn't start buying again until 2020. Okay. Still had that line of credit out there. So I got a little bored during COVID and started buying, frankly, a property or a portfolio of properties every month or two. Up until December of 21 was my most recent purchase, and I bought a 32 unit portfolio of singles and small multis.
Okay. How much did you have available to you in that HELOC?
125.
Okay.
Yeah. So it appraised very favorably when they did that HELOC. I was able to pull out 125 to buy the next 16 units, and then raise some money from kind of friends and family to buy the 32 unit portfolio.
And that buy window at that time, when you're taking down 16 units,
yeah,
what's the price per unit that you're buying those at?
So these are mostly Central PA, Harrisburg, York, Reading is pretty much the whole portfolio. So back when I was buying anywhere from $50,000 to $75,000 per pop.
Okay.
So you talk, I would buy a 3-unit portfolio for 150 to 200 range, right? And then I would get creative with the financing, so I could put as little as I could out of pocket, get some sort of like seller credit, things like that, to make my down payment as little as possible, because I knew I only had this nut of 125 that I could use, right?
That's some
So
serious scale. You're talking 100 and a quarter. Now you probably have a good W-2, so that helps
sure,
early on, starting out, right?
definitely, yep.
And then what are some of the techniques that you would use? Yeah, you're buying a triplex for 100 and call it 150.
Sure. Yeah, so I would come in and say, okay, what's the net that you want to walk with, or what feels good to you? Because some people care about different things, right? When you're trying to buy things. So, I mean, some guys just said, I want to net X by the end of this. Others say, I want to tell my friends that I sold it for 175, even if they gave me 25 grand at closing, right? It's stupid, but people care about that stuff, which to
Gotta
me,
love the ego. Gotta love the ego.
that was only one time, to be fair, but
that's cool. Hey,
yeah.
But that's what about? Let's pause on that nugget, because now, how are you having those conversations? Or are these properties listed with a realtor or a broker? Are you doing direct mail and people are calling you? Is it a property manager that's giving you the leads? Are you like how are you able to get this information?
Sure. So
because half the time the realtors, no offense against all my realtors,
yeah,
but they're not thinking like this. They're thinking very binary: price, commission.
So I actually never have done direct mail or any type of marketing for any of this stuff. I have a good relationship with my realtor. He's done all my deals with me, so he kind of gives me first look on a lot of this stuff now, which is great. But frankly, every property except the 32-unit one that I bought was on market on the MLS, and mostly they were just listed wrong, right? They they weren't listed as a 3-unit, or it was a single family that was listed for 3 times the cost, because it was a small portfolio of 3 single family units, right? So things like that, where people would be like, why would I pay 150 for this one when next door it's 50 or 60? But they didn't realize that was also, if you just read in the description, a 3-unit portfolio. So silly things like that. It doesn't take too many to build up a decent sized portfolio,
One of the ratios I look at is, how many rooms am I buying?
Right.
Or what's the square footage?
Mm-hmm.
And then you'll look at a picture, and then you look at the above ground square footage, and it's like, but there's definitely a larger addition on the back of that, or that third floor is able to be finished. And it's because at a certain point you need these ratios. You're looking at enough properties.
Sure.
Can I buy them at $80 a square foot, or $90 a square foot, or $100 a square foot? And how many bedrooms does that translate to? If we like to do some space planning where we'll make the kitchen and the living room one room. So usually we can get an extra bedroom out of that. And then we're not reducing any living area. They could still use that as a living room or a game room or an office. So that's great. So you have a realtor who's clearly an investor focused realtor.
Definitely. That's all he does.
And you show him, hey, look, man, I'm your buyer. I'm your buyer because you want to make this stuff easy. So you have an exclusive right with him, or after the first one, you don't even need it. You have a handshake and he's just calling you up, texting you.
Pretty much. Whenever he has a deal, he shoots me a text and said, hey, are you interested? And I say yeah or nay and go from there. But I think also for him, there's a lot of investors out there who may not be as serious, or might want to just kind of talk a lot and actually take any action. So at this point, he knows that I'll actually buy something if I say I will, which I know helps him a lot as well.
You do what you say you're going to do.
Yeah, exactly. Do what you say you're going to do.
Boom.
So.
Boom. So it's a 16-unit portfolio,
right?
And then you said in there you happen to just drop another 30 something. What?
Yeah, and the 32 unit. So the story about that one is great, right? So listed for, I believe, $3 million, right? And at the time, there's no way I was coming up with 20% down on that. I don't have $600K just kind of lying around,
Yeah, especially not in Central PA unless they are fully renovated.
Right.
20-year no capex.
Right. So the same thing with this one is it was listed as a single family, for $3 million, which out there you can, that's like the whole city, right? So so I clicked on it, like, cause no one else, it had been listed for 300 days. This thing was kind of dead. So I reached out to my agent. I'm like, hey, what do you think about this one? He's like, well, it's a big portfolio, needs some work, but I bet you could get a good deal on it. So I was able to structure. I won't go through all the nitty gritty, but got it down to 2.75, and they gave me a seller assist of $425,000. So cash at closing. So I only had to net come up with about $150K down, which I raised from friends and family. Mm-hmm. And then it appraised for 3.05. So
besides whatever happened in the middle with the 16 units,
right,
we're talking about $125,000 line of credit, and then some friends and family on $150, and we're at halfway to 100 doors.
Yeah. So that's all. That's where the good story ends. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Now we got to manage these properties that are 100 years old. We got to place tenants, figure out CapEx versus repairs and all that. But just to so many people, I feel like one of the number one reasons, besides fear stopping them, it's an ignorance to the amount of leverage that is possible. And look, not everybody can handle leverage. Not everybody can handle debt, right? They were raised, I was raised, debt's bad. And then it was, 4 years at Penn State, and the finance professor, like day one, that was like, who has student loans? And that, hands went up.
Yeah.
That's the cheapest money you will ever get. Take as long as you want to pay that off. Now, I was in college in 2000. Mm-hmm. So it was like, the fastest stuff was pretty cheap then. So it was like, it just changed my mindset. It's like, am I going to, God rest my mom's soul, like, am I going to listen to my mom who, like, debt's bad, or am I going to listen to this finance professor and then read a bunch more books that talk about leverage and talk about time value of money and talk about fixed rates with inflation?
Sure.
And, so this portfolio, I mean, how much do you think ballpark are these now worth $100,000 a door?
About, yeah. I just did a soft appraisal fairly recently, and the whole kit and caboodle is probably worth, 4.8, so about $100K a door. Yeah.
$5 million, round up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not bad.
Not bad. Not bad. One could say that that's pretty good. So, okay. So now what comes to my mind is, what's the age of those properties? Like the water lines,
right?
The electric, the knob and tube. If it was in the 1920s, 30s, 40s, 50s, like,
sure.
Like, those are asset classes that right now, my model is, I tear them apart from the inside out and I rebuild them, and I put about $50,000 into each apartment if I'm lucky.
Wow.
Sometimes it's a little bit more, but then I'm done. I'm done for 20 years, and it's a very fixed return. I do put some new debt on it, usually some sort of a joint venture with an investor or two. And now there's an episode early on where we interview, like, one of the original OG Go Abundance guys, Gary Jonas of the How Group. So I think it's episode 2, 3, or 4. And he's saying at a certain point, Rob, you need to bring on partners if you're really going to scale. And he scaled over 1,000 doors.
Wow.
So what does your portfolio, like, how did that all go? Because you did have to switch property managers.
Right.
Like, what was base reality and what you thought you were getting into, what you actually got into, what was just mismanagement on the manager side? How's this new property manager doing for you? And what can this is the real meat of this podcast. That story is amazing, by the way, on, like, the leverage and the ability to do all that. And you have a financial mind. Like, you see these things.
Right.
I'm sure the spreadsheets talk to you and tell a story.
You're
very comfortable with it.
I dream about them, Rob,
Yeah. How was, like, what went down? What can we learn?
I think it's good to go back a bit just to understand, like, kind of like the process through. So when I bought the 16 doors, those were all managed by a fairly local firm. And frankly, it was fine. not great, but it was fine. The cash flow every month was pretty consistent. And frankly, those first 16 doors were in a little better shape than the 32 unit portfolio. So so their job was a bit easier as well. Right around the time when I purchased the 32 unit, they were acquired by a larger firm, a national brand. I think, in my opinion, kind of lost some of the knitting, that had made them good before. But I was a loyal customer. My agent's also with the firm. So I knew, and trust them. It was easy to onboard properties, right? You buy with them. He does all the background work, and it's on the portal the next day, right? It's great. So first few months, not great in terms of cash flow. They had some issues with the systems they were using, and I literally didn't get a rent disbursement check for the first 2 months. Definitely pretty alarming when I see these big chunks of debt coming out right now, right? Much bigger than I was used to with a 16 unit portfolio. So the first 2 months were a little harrowing. Then they explained it all. I felt good. A few more months go by. Still not much improvement. I was getting checks, but they were significantly smaller than I thought they should be. And there wasn't much of an explanation. I think to me, and I guess we'll get into this later, is the communication piece of what was actually going on was really missing there. And to me, if you can't set expectations for me, then it's really hard for me to trust you moving forward. So this is around March, April of 2022. I pretty much say to them, hey, this isn't really going as planned. I'm not made of cash. I can't just keep fronting the cost for this, right? This just can't keep going on forever. So,
and you're fronting the cost from this from
Oh, yeah.
either your other properties or a W-2. And this is
yeah,
I know when I have to fund one of my rental accounts, I don't really like, wait a minute. The money's going the wrong
right. It's supposed to be the
unless
opposite
it's a
way.
refinance. And I'm like, I know that, all right, now I'm doing the roof, or now I'm going to shore up that whole basement or the mechanicals or whatever. But
Right.
the ongoing,
Month at a
I think a
time.
lot of people are afraid of that.
Right. And it made me scared, to be honest with you. It's not
Sure.
great seeing that. So I overraised for that big portfolio, and thankfully I did, because I was just using that cash that I overraised. But frankly, I thought, oh, I'll never do that cash. That's just for a rainy day, make me sleep at night, that I have that much money in the bank. Well,
that was the 150 from family or friends, or was there other capital?
Yeah, so I raised 250 for the 150 down. So I had an extra 100K sitting there just in case something happened.
Smart. Because when you need that money, it's much tougher to get it.
Yeah, and frankly, I'm not sure. I mean, I would have had to come up with something, but I'm not sure what I would have done if I didn't have it.
And at that point, your capital stack's already, your operating agreements are done. If there was
Right.
any promissory notes or any of that, my first boss, this man would tell me, no offense to the bankers out there, he says, bankers, it's like when it's raining, they won't give you an umbrella. They'll only give you the umbrella when it's sunny out. Like, you're not going back to the bank and be like, can I get a construction portion of this? Or can we renegotiate the terms on this interest only portion? Or
Right.
even friends and family are going to be like a little timid of,
Sure.
Got it. So you had at least $100,000 in reserves.
Right. Which is going quick when you got a lot of debt payments, right?
Well, when you're talking about a 30 unit building, that's probably average rent. Are we talking $800-900 a unit or more?
Yeah, 900. Now it's up to 1,200, but yeah, in that range.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's called 30 grand a month. Plus you have a taxes, insurance. You have all the things that never go away.
Right. Exactly.
Taxes, insurance, and then if there's any debt. Okay.
Yeah. So this is April, and this is, so I pretty much said, hey, this can't go much longer. I know you guys are in the midst of this merger, but frankly, that's not a big problem. Like, I have to live here too, right? So I gave them, I'm like, hey, until April, if you guys can't kind of figure this out, then I'm gonna have to look for another manager, because I'm gonna have to start selling properties, right? And to me, like, that helped me kind of internally, right? Like, what's the worst case scenario here? So you just sell a door or two and kind of shore up your cash. I know it's not the best situation, but it's not like I'm going to default on the loan, right?
Would your bank let you do? Did you ever get to the point where you had to check with your bank to see, did you blanket these?
I did, but my bank allows me to kind of sell one off of it, and you
Carve
can get
one off?
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly, which is great. I didn't have to do that, thankfully, but I did have to open up other credit facilities, right, to kind of float some of this. Anyway, so August comes, and frankly, still not very happy.
Just, that was a fancy word. He said credit facilities. AKA I had to get more money.
I had to get a line of
Right?
credit.
Yeah. I love talking with experts that have like these like that. I had to do a credit facility. What the fuck? Oh, I had to borrow some more money, or I had to go
Yeah.
somewhere else. Got it.
Yeah. Sorry, made that just like needlessly complex there.
I liked it.
um,
I liked it.
but August comes, right? And I'm still not, I'm still not cash flowing, frankly. And
Are they paying mortgage, taxes, insurance, or no?
no, so I
Are
have
you
to,
paying those?
yeah, exactly. So I'm paying all that. So that's not set
Okay.
aside. And
So
tax
you're
bills,
not cash flowing after like management, repairs, maintenance, and like whatever rent's not coming in.
correct,
Okay.
for months at a time.
Got it.
So August comes around and they said, oh no, we're on the brink of something. Like the portfolio can get blah, blah, blah. Like they sold me a false set of goods. I hold on for another 2 months. I went against my word and it's just a bad decision because the same thing happened for the next 2 months. I pulled the plug in November of last year and have switched over to a group where I knew, like, and trust the owner well. And frankly, it's been a lot better. So I'll stop there. I know there's a lot of information, but
Did you ever figure out what happened?
so it started off. They kind of promised, and I won't say the program without giving away like the company name. But it was a program where they kind of cover everything in terms of maintenance and all that other stuff. It wasn't explained properly to me, and I was being overcharged for it for months at a time, and I had to pull teeth to get that rebate back. I frankly don't think I even got all of it back. So that was the first set of it. And then just honestly, they didn't get very good bids. Rent collection, there'd be kind of units sitting for 2-3 months at a time, which I mean, like the name of the game is obviously to get these things fully occupied. And you can't just have stuff sit there for that long, right? Then codes would get mad at me. I'll get like these letters from the city saying, hey, what the heck's going on with this property? Like, there's no one there, and you're on the deed, right? So, not to get personal here, but yeah, that's
Yeah. Well, there's the portfolio that I was mentioning to you before.
right.
So it seems in property management, it's what I've learned, and I started some broker classes years back in Pennsylvania. And what the class that I took was property management. And what he said was instructors, it came out of the Great Depression where the banks owned the properties and then they needed like a new industry to manage it. And back then it was 10%, 10%, 10% for years.
Right.
What do you charge? 10%. And then when the softwares come out, and that was usually for like tenant placement and like everything, like coordinate your maintenance and we're not going to nickel and dime you,
Right.
and like all above board, it's just 10%. If you got $1,000 a month, you pay us 100, and we're just going to keep it going. And everybody's aligned. If you don't get paid, the manager doesn't get paid.
Right.
And what it seems for me being in the space now for almost 20 years, that the software's allowed a lot of firms to scale these enterprise platforms, the Yardies, the Appfolios, the Propertywares, the Rent Managers, the Buildiums, the list goes on. And then it's like this entrepreneurial spirit that comes in, and it's like, shit, I can scale this thing out. Like, I can have the staff, the software is going to do the work. And then it got even fancier. Then it got to, well, now if we're all competing on 10%, I'm going to be 8,
Right.
but I'm going to do this a la carte. But it doesn't include the lease renewal. Oh, no, it doesn't include the leasing. Oh, maintenance coordination's 20% over here. Technology fees 15% over there. And then it went, now it's in this next evolution.
Yep.
Where it's like, let me find out the fears of my landlords. And I'm not saying this is all wrong.
Mm.
If it's transparent, if the system, but the more complex something gets, and there's a lot of people running the software, that's where I see the challenge. So it's like the genius can make something simple, make the complex simple. But so Rentwell has a program called the Rentwell One Rate, like 5 years trademarked,
Right.
where it says, look, forget about all the a la carte services. Here's what we're going to charge you for tenant placement, maintenance coordination, collector rent, lease renewal, borough inspection. It's not done. Here's what it's going to be. It's going to be every month.
Right.
We're going to charge this. Then there's other programs that are like, but wait a minute, hold my beer. we're going to do maintenance, like actual swinging of the hammer, and it's all going to be centered around what do you think something's going to cost, what's included and what's not included. So that was a factor that you believe basically broke down.
Agreed.
And that's why, like, tenants could be paying the rent, but the sewer pipe crack. Did it crack, or was it a toilet leak? Maybe you cover the toilet flange, but you don't cover the line going out to the street.
Exactly.
Am I accurate in
Exactly.
this? Like,
100% accurate. Yep.
and you're in Old City, Philadelphia, running multi-million-dollar portfolios. You're buying these, paying for a manager, paying for maintenance,
Right.
and like, just where's the money? Like, this has got to work. Why would you set up a program that's just not gonna?
Right.
Okay,
Exactly.
got it.
So that's anyway. I'm not sure where I was in the story, but yeah.
We were talking about why, like,
Right.
like if you went going back in time, like, where did it break down, and was it a factor of it was
Sure.
extended vacancies, and then this I'm going to just call it the goofy maintenance.
Yeah.
You pay one fee, some solid double digit % of your rent, but we're going to take care of your maintenance. And you're thinking from your finance mind, Craig, this is great because I have consistent returns.
Right. And it's passive, right? I don't have to worry about it. If they say, okay, we're going to take a slightly higher fee here, then I can say, all right, well, that's fine. I can budget that in. Even if I'm making 1 or 2% less, I know it's going to be the same amount every month. It's like a bond, right? I'm just making this massive bond. That's what I thought in my head.
Got it. Got that.
Which I love.
So
right?
the only way I know how to do that right now is I got to put all this money into the building to make it all new.
Yeah.
And then my variables are vacancy, which okay, property manager's in control of.
Right.
And then my variable is how much damage, if any, did the tenant do moving out? Mm-hmm. Best way to solve that is have somebody there every 3 months checking on the property.
Exactly.
Right.
Right.
And then there is some. I'll finish the train of thought. Is now there are pet screening programs. There's where the manager keeps the pet rent and then is responsible for X amount of damage of pet rent. So then is it, was that pet rent or is that not pet rent? And now there's, hey, tenant doesn't pay a security deposit. They pay it into this other fund company, by the way, and we guarantee your rent for 12 months. So it's like, but insurance is expensive.
Right.
And we pay so much in insurance. So, like, how do you know if it's really worth it? And what is the model like that you've gone to now?
So what I have now is frankly more quote unquote old school property management, right?
Yeah.
It does have a few of the bells and whistles that you were talking about, right? So I pay a flat 7% and half of the first month's rent. If they're able to increase rents, then they get the increase on the month, right? So if it goes up from $1,000 to $1,200, they get $200. But then every month thereafter, then I get the increase.
They get the first month increase.
Yeah, which I thought was kind of
as a lease renewal.
Yeah, lease renewal. I'm sorry. Yeah, lease renewal.
That's cool.
Yeah, I thought it was a good way.
What the average is? The average is we're gonna be at $250 or $500 to renew your lease. We get $25 to $50 a month, and it's basically, but wait a minute, then I never get to see my increase,
right?
Because at $25 a month, it's $300 a year, and if you're charging me $250, I just made an extra $50. We're going backwards, and you get the % off the new rent,
right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
okay.
And that's what I was used to with kind of the first kind of iteration there. They were back to the old software with AppFolio, which I knew and was a lot simpler, honestly, to read, I thought. So just that, and when I text or call my manager now, he gets right back to me. That's huge. It sounds so simple, just going back to kind of basic tackling here, but it works. And we're not quite out of the woods yet, but we're getting there. And I like the trend that we're on a lot better than what I was at before. So,
that text back gives you peace of mind, doesn't it? Like, then you don't have to carry it up here.
Right.
I know he's on. Even if it's an answer, you don't like. It's not even about like or not. Okay, do I need a new roof or is it just a patch?
Right.
AKA, do I need to set aside $10,000 or $1,000?
Mm. Yeah.
How soon can you let me know? In about a week, I want to get another bid. Okay, great.
Right.
Now you're not waking up in the middle of the night with a dream that there's water going down from the roof into the basement.
Right. And just setting expectations too, right? I heard with the prior one over and over, oh, next month will be better. Next month will be better. The new guy, he says, all right, this portfolio is still in not great shape. Kind of give me till April to June timeframe, and you'll be really happy with kind of where we're at. He's like, I'm not going to spend all the money now to get it to where it needs to go. But let's use some cash flows to get it there, right? Just kind of coming up with a plan. And we worked on that plan together. It wasn't just him saying that. It was me saying it as well. Like, hey, this is the cash reserve situation. This is where I wanted to get to. Let's work together. So working with them instead of just saying, I don't know what to do, I just want you to manage it, right? Just kind of putting your hands in the air, because that doesn't work either.
Right now, with a few more acquisitions, my group, this RW Investment Group, will become the biggest client of Rentwell. So over 100 units.
Right.
And what I'm realizing is, and here's, I love it because it's making our property management better. And I almost feel like there's a game played above property management, which is asset management. That's what you're doing with these portfolios that you are making these trades on. And it's a different mindset of the capital expenditures versus the repairs and maintenance versus even some space planning when the tenant moves out.
Right.
The type of tenant that, are we going subsidized? Are we going to do just traditional 12-month? Can any of these be short-term rentals? Is there any type of hospitals nearby or co-living situations that could be set up? And I've mentioned before to clients of Rentwell, can I get a budget? Can you give my property managers a budget for your property?
Yeah.
And you'd be surprised how unwilling they can be, and almost like they don't know, and they're not quite sure. And what I realized is that you almost have to build up some sort of a level of, like, dude, what's the water bill? Most managers don't pay mortgage, taxes, or insurance. So really what it comes down to is, let's have a conversation about maintenance on your property. Do you think, here's the challenge, most of the books are set up for the big boys, 300 units. Well, if you have a 300 unit community, daily maintenance is probably going to be $500 a unit a year.
Right.
But daily maintenance is not going to be 500 units on a 100-year-old, cosmetically renovated single family house in central PA, where the temperature gets over 100 degrees and below zero.
Right.
Not like, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like, is this year, do we have $1,500, $2,000, or $10,000 to put into that asset? And that's where we're starting to call it asset management, because the owner doesn't really know. I have clients that have never seen their buildings. Never seen it at all. Wouldn't even know where a key was. I could drive them by it and they'd be like, okay, which one are we looking at here? And so they don't know. So that means I need to know. Right. And it can't stop at me. It can't stop. So have you worked out any scenarios or how are these conversations, Craig, going with your property manager? Because I feel like you're in some ways almost more engaged, because before you're playing defense, but now you're playing offense.
100%.
And here we go. Because now you got the wind in the sails. Now every one of these ones that he gets turned around, he or she or they get turned around, right? Now that's more capital that you have to keep the portfolio going, and then you can start your distribution. So what tips do you have for the listeners to basically lead the property managers?
So for me, I think this helped a lot. Is I sat down with my property manager day one and said, all right, go through all the bills that I have to pay, right? Taxes, insurance, mortgage, list them all out for him and say, every month I need this much to actually come to my bank account so that I can cover all this. While we're getting this up to speed, if you need to spend over that to fix up these properties, that's your budget each month. I'm okay breaking even until the whole thing is kind of fully stabilized. That's kind of like the agreement we have right now. So as long as he gives me X every month, I'm happy. I can pay my bills. I don't see my cash account going up, which kind of stinks. But I know long term it's going to be for what's best for the portfolio.
And is
Right.
that your cash count in your bank, or is that the trust account that your property manager has sitting in that folio, or both?
So the trust account that he has sitting there, right? Yeah.
Okay.
So
So he has set up a way to give minimum distributions to you. This is my nut.
right.
I need 10 grand. All right, boom. And then do you for your insurance isn't due every month typically, nor are your
Mine was,
taxes.
unfortunately. Yeah.
It is. So it's escrowed,
So,
or you just pay it monthly.
yeah, exactly. So, so I just pay it monthly. It comes out of the account. It's like
Okay.
35 line items. It's really fun to look at.
And it's a little bit more that way too.
It is. It is.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a few percentage points more when you're paying
Right.
monthly versus quarterly versus annual. Okay. So so that's one way to conserve cash. Did you switch those, or were they always like that?
That's really the only option they gave me. It's probably something I should look back into and actually ask, because that would save
Yeah,
money.
because when I'm getting quotes, I'm getting an annual, I'm getting a quarterly, and then I'm getting a monthly.
Right, just like your car insurance, right? I save a little bit of money. Yeah,
Save a little bit of money.
right.
Okay, but for right now, it's probably like, okay, good. Just don't give me the 1/12 price. And then how do you handle the accounting on your taxes?
And that's something that I'm kind of working through this year. So this 2022 will be the first year that I've had a full year with the big portfolio, right? Since I bought it, I bought the big one December 29th of 2021. So I had 2 days worth. It was easy. But this year will be the first one. So I hired a new CPA. I actually had to fire my dad. Sorry, Dad. To do my taxes, but
oh, I'm sure Dad's heartbroken.
I'm sure he is.
How many LLCs?
Yeah. So from the accounting perspective, I was kind of doing the books manually. I minored in accounting in school, so I have a basic knowledge of accounting. But that's on the list of this year of things to kind of offload for sure.
Yeah. Now, I will say the Appfolio platform property managers are taught through a group called NARPM, the National Association of Residential Property Managers. We are basically taught, do not pay mortgage, taxes, insurance, interest.
Right.
I have it done for RW Investments because why wouldn't I? I employ the finance manager, the controller, the bookkeepers.
Right.
Like they're under W-2. They're overseen by a CPA, as is every client of Rentwell. It's all overseen by, and we have a outsourced CFO that's even adding more kind of structure and helping us set the vision over the next 10 years for this. So they are capable of doing it, because otherwise it's a lot of double accounting.
It is.
That happens when, like, I've sat with clients and I'm like, okay, so what do you do now? We just sent you this amount of money and this owner statement. And like my head just starts to go like, oh my God, like you're basically doubling up the accounting that we just did to get it to sync in with your QuickBooks.
Right.
And now here's the downside, Craig. Like the risk is, there have been cases, I know of one specifically in Philadelphia, where the property manager didn't pay any of the bills. Oh, we're telling you we're paying your insurance bill. We're telling you we're paying your tax bill. The notices are going to us. You don't even exist,
right,
Mr. XYZ LLC. And also, things can get dropped, right? Like you're going to see it if it doesn't happen. But like for us, like we have to then have those budgets. We have to be looking at those budgets. You switch your stuff from monthly to quarterly, from quarterly to annually. It's like, well, wait a minute. What am I looking at here?
Yeah.
And that's like, for anybody who's listening, of like, why can't these property managers get their, what together and handle all of the accounting? That's, to the best of my knowledge, of why it's a good check and balance of like, basically most of these are going to operate. They're probably sending you like 80% of your money every month anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Call it 10% for management, 10% for maintenance and vacancy. Right. And then you're getting 80%. And then from your 80%, you probably have maybe, another, most of these, when I'm looking at them, they're 50% on operating expenses. So then you have your other 30%, and then you have your principal and interest. And so you're doing it in QuickBooks.
I will be.
Okay.
Right now I'm doing it in Craig's self-made kind of Excel formula here.
Do you have a pivot table in
I
there?
do. Of course.
Dude,
Of course.
I'm an Excel geek too. I'm a Google sheet. Now I got to say I'm a Google
Sheets.
Sheets
Okay.
geek.
All right.
I'm proud to admit it.
But that's going to be switched over soon. It does help though. I think when I was first starting out, looking through those statements definitely helped me understand what was going on better. And I could talk to the property manager and say, why wasn't rent collected this month here? Why was this maintenance cost this? So you just understood the accounting better and kind of where the money went. I think that helped me a lot learn it. Because going into they don't teach you this stuff. At least they didn't teach me in any type of school, right? It was all kind of self-taught type of stuff here. You get the accounting.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
And when you're too hands off, man, I have my own story about this. We'll save it for another time.
Yeah.
But yeah. So stay hands on. Be looking at the financial reports. Let your property manager. I'm recapping, right? Let your property manager know what your nut is every month. Let them know if you're in a position to pour back into the portfolio, or if you need to go the opposite direction. You need more cash flows because these things ebb and flow.
Yeah.
Right. If you just, there's the life cycle of these buildings. So I know for me, about half my portfolio debt's due in 9 years. The other half is due in only about 4. Okay, well, the 9 years, I have some more time on it.
Right.
The 4 years, I want to be getting my rents up, really focused on like maybe holding off on any big CapEx. So then that way, when I go to recapitalize, then it's a better time.
Right.
To, yeah. And again, that's anything that I didn't already get to, which isn't much
And this was another thing I think is actually helping me now. So, and this seems super basic, but it helped me, is I have a Google sheet, and it has 3 columns, right? We have green, yellow, and red. And the red are the ones that aren't in great shape. Tenants are kind of shaky, that kind of thing's going on. We have the yellow where it's in process, right? We're getting close. And the green is kind of good to go. So we're in the process now of moving things through the process. And to me, visually, that helps a lot to say, okay.
Talking dirty with these conditional formats there, man. Wow. Getting color on your workbook. Now, you're right. And then you see what it is, and it becomes very visual, and it becomes very like, because you went from defense to offense. What could this future look like for you, Craig? With you have solid property management in place, you believe.
Yeah.
Has your buy box changed? Is it evolved? Are you would you be looking at taking down more of similar types? What do you see happening in this market in the future? Like,
yeah. So kind of 2-part answer to that, right? So as I buy in the future, because I haven't bought in a year and 2 months now, so that's the longest I haven't bought since I first started doing real estate, because I wanted to get this thing stabilized. But to me, if I'm going to buy in the future, I think I'd like to move up the kind of quality spectrum here. A lot of the stuff I bought was C plus maybe kind of grade. I'd like to move a little bit more into the B minus, B plus, that range. Feels a little bit better to me. I have 2 kind of A plus properties, and there's never any issues with those. They don't really cash flow.
Malvern and your.
I've one in Malvern. I've one in the Rittenhouse Square area.
Okay.
So those 2 are fine. There's obviously never any issue. Not obviously, but there's never any issues really. I don't need to go that high end because then you're just paying to keep that alive. But the B I think is a happy medium. Okay. And then on the side, I actually opened up an exposure line of credit. So I'm kind of partnering with people now to do certain flips to kind of get some cash into the portfolio to help me kind of fund some of that stuff. So that's kind of the 2-prong approach I'd like to use moving forward here. Instead of I still want to get creative with this stuff because it's fun. But I don't need to go into a deal with, no money down. Maybe I can bring $20,000, right?
So you're a private lender on flips.
Yeah, exactly.
I went to Upper Darby High School, and we need to get me to, you called it exposure capital, but we're a private money lender for flips.
So the line is actually called an exposure line of credit.
An exposure line. Yeah. See, I'm learning. I love this.
I didn't know this existed.
What was the other one?
What?
What was the other one?
Credit facility.
Credit facility. Credit facility. And now we have exposure.
Yeah.
Line of credit?
Fancy terms here, I know. Getting crazy.
And shout out to all my Upper Darby folks. Okay.
Delco, right?
Yes, right. Okay, so exposure line of credit. So what does that look like?
So the exposure line of credit, I found a lender who It's your total deal volume done over the past 5 years, and they give you kind of preferred terms, right? It's based on your experience. So for this one, you go buy a house for, let's say, like $100,000. You bring 10% to the table, and then they cover all the rehab up to 75% ARV. So it's almost like a line of credit, but you can only use it for this type of thing, and you'll have to bring 10% to the table, which is, I don't think.
Okay, so you're not funding other people's flips.
Oh, I will, though.
You're doing your own flips.
No, so I'll come to them and say, hey, I have this, and you do all the work. I'll give you a line of credit. I'll cover all the holding costs, all the other stuff, and we'll split profits.
So you're joint venturing with an operating partner who's going to
Correct.
oversee.
Exactly.
Nice. And then that increases your yield back to your
right. It's the active part of this stuff, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So,
Craig, we're going to want to have you back on in the future and see how this portfolio is growing, see how those B class future units are doing for you. We have a few questions as we look to close this down. And
let's do it.
One of them is, how do you take care of you? What is there prayer, meditation, the physical body? Like, what does that look like for you?
2 things help me a lot. I journal every day. Getting my thoughts out on paper is huge for me. I never used to be into it. And my now wife bought me a journal one day and said, why don't you try this? And it's worked really well. It's honestly helped me become a lot more productive. Just get my thoughts out there, I think helps a lot. And then the second piece for me is just going on runs. I used to run in college. It's my form of meditation. If I'm having a rough day, just go out there and either put some headphones on or not, and just kind of pound the pavement a little bit and just get out everything.
What time of day are you doing the journaling?
Journal, I do it twice in the morning when I wake up, which I'm not an early rise kind of guy. I wake up at 7:30, 8 o'clock, and then at night whenever I go to bed. So twice a day, kind of morning, and then before bed, like what happened well today, what are you grateful for, all that good stuff. So
wonderful. And then how about the runs?
After work, I've been slacking a little bit here recently, which is why I'm so angry right now. No, I'm kidding. But no, but yeah, usually after work, 5, 6 o'clock.
So. Wonderful. And then how about any types of donations that you do, give back, charity? Is there anything you support that you'd love our listeners to take a look at as well? Yeah.
So the one that I've done recently here is a group called Clarify, based out of Philly. I'm not sure if you've heard of them, but you can sign up to be a financial coach.
Wow. So I haven't heard of Clarify. Okay.
So for people in the city, I think it's only Philadelphia County. But if they're struggling with debt, like the bad type of debt, or if they're looking to buy their first house, you can act as their coach, and it's a one-on-one, or we can kind of talk them through kind of how to buy that first house, or how to get out of debt, and kind of help them there. So that's giving time, obviously, more than money. But to me, that's nice. That's what I'm good at. So.
Well, you have a lot of expertise, and now you're teaching the man to fish.
Exactly, right? It's the most important thing.
You're helping them with their habits, I'm sure, and.
Right.
Well, sir, you're a gentleman and a scholar, man. I think it's so cool how transparent you showed up for us today, and you went after it, and I'm so glad that you did, and I'm glad that you were able to make some moves, and you're really comfortable with your management. And how can people get a hold of you?
So. Email, I'll actually be the guy to put the email out here. So it's my last name, Eppler, Eppler, first name Craig, Craig @gmail. And I'm Eppler C on Instagram. It's about really all I use. I'm not on a lot of the social networks. So
awesome. All right, my friend. Well, thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Rob.
And I wish you and your new bride a wonderful winter season.
Appreciate that. Thanks.
Thank you for listening to Living Well with Rentwell. We hope you loved that episode.
Please be sure to head over to our website at rentwell.com/vision. We're giving away our free program called Vision Through Purposeful Action. If you're a busy person, if you struggle with finding the time and priorities, or if you're experiencing procrastination and overwhelm, this free course will help you with that.
We wish you a blessed day. Thank you for tuning in, and check in later.